it's a dying field, actually. I like to think of it as an ever-changing, constantly changing type of thing. It's definitely evolved. There's a lot of things going on now that just years ago when I started, nobody could even dream of doing, and that's cool and all. You know, I'm all about conserving the old school hands-on technique.
Mm.
The original aspect of the art field is dissipating because the digital age has kind of overcome it in a way. With social media and Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator and InDesign, it's easier to make art, but it's not all original like sketching handheld.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Why? Because social media does pick up some aspect of people's art that's pretty awesome. Because if you see like Pinterest, Instagram, even Tumblr, or any of those things, you see people just go have the creative mind to create something and just do something out of the ordinary that nobody else has done. But then again, I feel like it lacks. Not a lot of people do show, like in the art world, that it's really, how do I say it? It's kind of like, is like art, like being an artist doesn't really, people doesn't go like, hey, he's an artist, what does that do? Like, what do you do with that field? Like, are you gonna make it? Type of thing. So some people take it for granted, and like they sometimes don't even get anywhere just by being an artist.
I would say with like the new technology and like all the tools that are available now, a lot of young artists, they kind of bypass what I like to think as like the crawling stage and just kind of want to run into like the jumping and running stages.
Yeah.
So a lot of that old school stuff that I was brought up on kind of gets discarded and forgotten. And in a sense, people just, once that happens, they only look at the new, so they consider the old dead. You know, so it in a sense, in that, like, looking at it from that point of view, it is a dying field, and guys like me, like the old school dinosaur guys, you know, like, we're like becoming extinct and whatnot. I feel it's our duty to kind of keep that going and preserve that.
There isn't enough interest in the actual subject, and some schools don't necessarily have an art class, so it's not like they're teaching kids to enjoy art and have fun while doing it. But and when I was in school, we only had one art class. I think it was when I was in 4th grade, but we never had an art class again after that. It's not like they didn't really.
Go.
They didn't necessarily value it, so they cut the program.
All right.
Man, that's a good question. I'm a comic book artist, and that's like probably the toughest aspect of it, because you got to be able to do everything. You got to be like an architect, a fashion designer. You got to know perspective. You got to know anatomy. You got to know how to render different textures and surfaces. That's one of the toughest. And there's like a billion comic book guys out there, so that's like definitely the hardest thing to do as an artist. As far as the one that's dying the most, I don't want to say comics is dying at all, because with the movies and all that, there seems to be like a new resurgence and people kind of digging into comic books to come up with new creative things. So from that point of view, I'm not even going to say comics. I honestly, maybe the fine arts, I dare to say maybe that's kind of not, at least not in this country. I would say Europe, the Europeans and like other countries, they have a high regard for that kind of stuff. Like in America, it's kind of considered more like a hobby. You know what I mean? Over there, they look at it like being a doctor or a lawyer, something like that, you know?
Okay.
Well, in my opinion, the one I feel, it's kind of, I feel like it's suffering because the way it's being used, and that's photography. Because I feel like nowadays people just post pictures and just be like, oh, I'm a photographer, but what's the aspect, what's the context behind the photo, you know, what's the point of taking this photo? Is there a reason you put black and white instead of color? You know, stuff like that. I think photography really.
I'd say painting is suffering the most because now you can go into Photoshop, you can take an image, and you can use different types of filters to distort it and change the way it looks entirely.
Oh wow, the best way, obviously nowadays, it's got to be social media, with all the avenues and all these mobile devices and stuff like that. To me, I'm always a fan, again, the old school way, word of mouth. I prefer to speak to persons face to face and take it like that. But the best, easiest, most convenient way nowadays is definitely social media.
By using all the social media outlets that we have today to push the idea of art and creativity out so that students and teachers and everyone become inspired and interested in the subject again.
Raise art's popularity. Basically, people need to go out to galleries and meet other people and show off people work. 'Cause that's the old way of socializing. Instead of using social media works too. You could promote your work from there and doing that, but if you really want to get noticed, you need to get to know people who done the work, hands-on talk to them, and show them your work. Because if you go to like New York galleries and start talking to people, you have a connection there, boom. They'll remember you. They won't remember you. I mean, on like a social media site, because they really haven't physically talked to you. If they felt like they talked to you and you had a connection, boom. You're good, bro.
Me personally, again, I'm a conservationist, a preserver of the old school techniques, because that's just kind of the way that I learned it. And since, again, bringing up the digital media and all this new technology, I'm constantly, when I'm on social media, I'll post videos of myself, like, physically, hand painting and doing that kind of thing, just to kind of raise awareness and get people to think it's cool again, because I definitely think it's cool, and I definitely think it should be around forever. So that's definitely the thing I'm doing for that.
The career I want to pursue is to be a comic book designer. So I'm going to use all of my ideas and stories and art to push the idea into a comic book, and hopefully the readers and the audience that I eventually create will become inspired enough to do it themselves.
I wouldn't recommend it. You gotta be very, very tenacious, very, very focused, and just patient, and in a sense, a very competitive person, because it is not easy, and you have to have a very thick skin, because I know in the beginning I was afraid to show my portfolio when I'd go to conventions. I'd just be so nervous that that's your heart you're pouring out on a page, and somebody can just tear it apart in like 2 words, and it hurts. But eventually I went, and my wife actually encouraged me to go to my one of the conventions where I first showed it off, and I got lucky. I hit it off with the guys, and the rest is history. I started self-publishing comics, but I don't think I would recommend it. You have to have a real passion for it. If it's your passion, go for it, like anything in life. But I say go to school, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a normal career person, all right? This is not for everybody. That's just my opinion again, so.
Not necessarily, but I really want to use art to make a name for myself and to inspire creativity worldwide.
No. Not really. What you do is take what you know from being an artist and use that for something else, like there's a company or an organization or a job that really pays well that needs what you do. That's a good way of using what you know for being an artist, but you could also have that as a side too. Because I know in this world it's kind of hard to really get noticed. Top 5% artists are the ones who really get noticed, and it's really hard and tough. It's a crazy world out there, man. It's a jungle. You gotta fight.
My favorite medium, believe it or not, I haven't worked in it in years, but my favorite is oils. Oils are like the best blends ever. I mean, like, you can get a blend going on something, like you start a week ago, and then you can come back days later and it'll still just blend so smoothly. The only thing about oils is, if you've worked with them before, is the smell. They get you high. Like, make sure you're in a ventilated area because you'll be like coming out of it like this. But I love oils. For that reason alone, you just get the smoothest blends. If you're really, really good with it, it can look like digital or airbrush work. That's my favorite.
Okay. Alright, well, thank you.
Awesome. Anytime.
I would say Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, because I can create vector art, and vector art it's small, and you can see it on any type of like platform. Like you can open it up in a tab if you want to. So you can show people what you've done, and they can give you ideas on how to fix it if you had to.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Well, as you can see this photo, I chose photography because it's a way for me to express what I see with my eyes, and I've always been a photo type of guy. So, never been much of a reader, so anything that really didn't have pictures, I was like, I'm not bothering with this, but photography gave me a way to express the way I feel towards others, and I like telling a story with my photos as well. Oh yeah, that's there.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.